Hello and welcome to Predictocast, the podcast where we predict the plot of a movie we know nothing about. I'm Josh, and with me, as always, is Skinner. Hey, Skinner.
Hey, Josh. Hey, all my Russian mobsters out there.
Very good. So we are here to talk about the 2000 action drama, City of Fear. If you listen to our mini episode last week where we did all of our predictions on what we thought the movie would be, we picked this simply because it was sort of an inverse of the movie we did a couple weeks ago called Fear City. And I dare say that Fear City might have more martial arts in it than City of Fear.
I think it does, which is weird.
Which is kind of baffling.
There's really no reason for there not to be more martial arts in this movie. I mean, you could really take out the fact that he is a martial artist with a sensei, and the movie would be very, very similar to what it is.
From the beginning of the film, I love that they gave a reason for him to know martial arts. They couldn't just have it be one of those things where it's like, oh, he just knows this. They had to like work a reason into, but they couldn't go so far as to work in a reason why he knows how to shoot guns.
He's a reporter. Right from the beginning of the movie, I want to mention right off the start that I am stunned that this movie was made by the Bulgarian Business Projects.
Yes, and it does not paint a favorable light for Bulgaria.
Not at all. Like it tells you they're in Bulgaria, that they are specifically in the city of Sofia. It is a tricky city, and yet
it's a city of fear, as we are told.
The city of fear. If you have a positive AIDS test, you're pretty much dead in this city.
Oh my God! The fact that that's in the movie, and it's like they're just fine with us. I mean, that lets you know all that you needed to know about the Bulgarian government at this point when this movie was made.
But at the same time, like it's like the Bulgarian Business Project is like a sarcastic thing. Like it's made by some other country that's trying to fucking shit on Sofia. Like the whole
I think it's about people who were not happy with where Bulgaria was at the time, because they do have Charlie give like this real like pro-Bulgarian, anti-American screed midway through, like America established the current government in Bulgaria and it's bullshit. Like,
it's crazy. Like, I mean, you go to this movie presented by this thing that I assume was there to promote Bulgaria, like the businesses, but like you would go into this thinking like, okay, everyone who's not a junkie speaks English. Fine, that's great. If you take the blue mist, you end up like Mr. Peepers from SNL. And that Sofia is an incredibly dangerous, dark city that you don't want to deal with, but it has beautiful street markets. And they bury their dead in the middle of the road.
Yes. When they cut to that shot at the funeral, it's like, is he just in a ditch on the side of the road?
Like they have a memorial on the tree, but like, which that's beautiful, but like he literally he's half buried in half the street.
Yeah, it's pretty much something. All right, let's go through this thing, because man, it's better than I was expecting it to be. Like, I had more fun with it than I was thinking that I would.
I would get bored for 5-minute stretches, and then somebody in a giant orange suit would show up. I'm like, yeah, this is a pretty good movie.
So we meet our hero, the two first named Gary Daniels, playing the two first named Steve Roberts.
I couldn't remember if his name was Robert or Steve a lot of this movie.
Well, the credits list him as Roberts, even though they say Steve pretty constantly.
They do. I like that the credits just call, like, at least on IMDb, just call Charlie Venko, because everyone calls him Charlie. This is one of those movies where
his name is Charlie Venko, and then you meet him, and he's just like an American guy.
He's Canadian, the actor. He talks like Bret the Hitman Hart. He has the same accent.
This guy, when we get to Charlie, he looks like a Hollywood Boulevard version of James Marsden.
Yes.
Like when they were fixing when they were fixing Sonic from the first Sonic trailer, they took all the things off of Sonic and put them on James Marsden, and then this guy came out.
Gave him a little extra eyebrows, a little more chin, a little more jaw.
some prominent teeth.
I will give this movie this. This is a movie that has a character who everyone else talks about for the entire movie. And you know he's going to show up even though he's dead from the start.
Supposedly.
Oh
my God, talk about his death, his supposed death.
But so many movies that would do this, it would never pay off. He could never be because everyone's Charlie this, Charlie that, Charlie. It's a whole fucking movie. And everyone in this movie is boring as fuck. Like no one talks, no one has any emotion. They don't emote. They don't show anything. Like everyone is flat as fuck. And then Charlie shows up. And he's from the fucking Street Fighter 2 spin-off movie. Like he's crazy and he's over the top and he's yelling everything. He's fantastic. And he's not in the movie until the last 15 fucking minutes.
Yeah. So, all right. So at the beginning, we meet Steve Roberts, who's walking in a darkened parking garage, going to his car.
I do enjoy a good movie opening on a parking garage.
Yeah, you know something's going to happen. And immediately he's attacked by this guy. And they're fighting throughout the opening credits. We get a lot of freeze frames through the credits. A lot of slow motion kicks. We see the director's name appear on a freeze frame of Gary Daniels' foot because I guess he's really into that. And this goes on for a little bit, and the guy eventually gets the best of him and takes him down. And says, and we realize, oh, wait, it's okay. Because the guy's like, you're a skilled fighter, but you have to, not let your anger overtake you or whatever. And then he stands up and very much like Razor Sharp, where we pulled back and realized we were in a movie, this is just a training demonstration. And we see a bunch of people in gis just standing off next to some cars clapping.
I know to fool the audience, this had to take place in a parking garage or someplace that wasn't a dojo or a gym or anywhere you would do this. But man, when they showed students off to the side next to cars in the parking garage, there's literally no reason they could ever give why they did it here. None. if imagine parking your car going to the mall and you look off to the side and there's a very, very energetic, full of students martial arts exhibition going on in the parking lot, and you're like, fucking do that in the rotunda, my friends.
I think this is probably the parking garage for the dojo, and they just set everything up. They knew what was going to happen.
It could not be contained, and I like the setup from the beginning that our hero. Steve Roberts, not Steve Rogers. He's not Captain America.
Not Steve Rogers, even though he kind of looks a little bit like Captain America. He's got the blonde hair.
His hair is amazing in this movie.
He's got a very 90s mushroom cut going on here. And
it's between that and his striking blue eyes.
Yes.
Just fighting. They're just fight. Like his bangs and his eyes are fighting more than anybody else in this movie. But like, It tells you right from the start that our main character, who is going to be fighting everyone everywhere, isn't that great.
No.
He's someone who he isn't good enough to do. He's been failing. He always ends up on his back, he says.
Yeah, he just does this to keep in shape, he says.
What a weird thing to start this movie with.
Again, they just got to set up why he knows how to do what he does later on in the movie. Because it wouldn't make sense otherwise. We couldn't just accept that this guy happens to know martial arts.
He's a reporter. What does he ever... Is there anything that he ever does that makes you think that he's a reporter, except for every now and then he mentions he's a reporter?
No, not really. He never seems to ask, he asks questions, but he asks them in an aggressive cop-like manner. So it's never like... I'm just trying to get some information. He's always like very aggressive right out of the gate.
He's not brought over to he doesn't give himself the will to go over there. Someone else creates that situation.
Yeah.
he's not going like he's not a guy chasing a scoop.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to be a reporter. Also, he's treated like a cop, like American cop or whatever cop he's supposed to where he's supposed to be.
Yeah,
from.
like he's out of his jurisdiction.
Out of his jurisdiction. That's how it's portrayed the whole movie, but he's not. He's just this really broad-shouldered, gigantic, foppish-haired reporter.
Yeah. So he leaves the parking garage and he goes home and he takes a nap while wearing jeans and having jeans flung over the back of his couch.
That's his evening jeans and his morning jeans.
That's right. He was in his sleeping jeans and he had his going out doing things jeans waiting on the couch for when he wakes up.
He's never not wearing jeans though. There's a scene where everyone in a room was wearing suits and he looks so fucking like he's going to go shop at Nordstrom's or something. Like he looks so out of place.
This guy, he loves light wash denim and plaid shirts because that is pretty much his entire wardrobe the entire film.
The entire film. Like he looks like he just went to the casual men's section of JCPenney in 2000 and 1999 and like he's like, I'll take all this.
I'm wondering when this movie was actually shot because it says it came out in 2000, but like was it filmed then? Because it feels like this could have been filmed in like...
It feels 97, 96, doesn't it?
Yeah, like the fashion feels very...
It feels like my graduating year of high school.
Yeah, this feels like kind of casual wear section of the JCPenney catalog that you would see in the late 90s. So yeah, they definitely didn't upgrade his stuff, but... this is one of those 2000s movies that feels very much like a 90s movie.
Oh, absolutely. Except for it isn't shot as nice.
No. So he gets a knock at the door and he opens up and there's these people standing there and they have come as sort of they've come as like almost like an emissary of a friend of his, Charlie Vanko, and they want him to come over and cover this work that Charlie is doing in Bulgaria. He is a scientist. And they say that they'll pay him to write an article about it and get the positive word out about his the work that he's doing.
He gets $5,000 and a free ticket to London.
It doesn't really seem to take much to convince him. He's like, "Nah, I'm not interested." And they're like, "Well, here's $5,000." He's like, "All right, cool, I'm going."
I know the twist on this, which is at the end, but like, is there any other way to make him go see his best friend?
Yeah, there's got to be something else they could have done, not having to like trick him to come over there. It's weird the way that it all works out when you figure out what the end is and like why they felt they had to do this to get him to go over there.
These three random Bulgarians dressed in like traditional Bulgarian garb. Like there's just like knock knock, Bulgarians at the door. Like
and he's like, "Now I'm going to Bulgaria." And you're like, "You're already there, my man. These scenes have been shot in Bulgaria. You did not film this in America."
He, in theory, like some strangers came to his door and said, "We'll give you $5,000 to go to Bulgaria and report on your best friend." And he's like, "Okay, I'll just drop what I'm doing right now and fly from Seattle to Bulgaria on."
And I also won't call my friend and tell him I'm on my way.
No, of course.
I'm just going to surprise him.
Maybe the satellite's down.
Oh, that's right. Yes, the satellite's down. So why didn't they give him that excuse? Like, "Oh, you can't call him. The satellite's down, so you'll just have to go."
Was that someone lying to him, or did they knock out all the phone calls from Bulgaria to America just to stop Steve Roberts from calling home?
I think it's a lie, but we never really explored that. So who's to say? He ends up in Sofia, Bulgaria,
the city that never sleeps on the new freedom and democracy. That'll never fit on a t-shirt, my man.
The cabbie, who's very talkative, and tells him all about how the city is very tricky without a friend to guide him. So it's good that he has a friend that he's visiting. And he arrives at the house to see a funeral procession leaving the home and finds out that, oh, actually, that's your friend Charlie. He's dead.
Yeah, he's like, who died? He's like, the owner, your friend. And then we got to the middle of the woods in the middle of the road, and he's being buried in the road.
I mean, it is they cut out, and it is a cemetery, but it just feels like they just threw him on the side of the highway.
It's like they had permission to film at a cemetery, but not to do anything to the cemetery. So
yes,
they did it on the side of the cemetery.
Yeah, that's right. You can't disturb any of the graves, but you can dig up this part of the grass here right next to the street.
And we're told that Charlie died, and I here's my quote from the closed captionings: in a terrible fishing accident, but inaudible.
I can tell you how he died. So, well, before he finds out exactly how he died, he sees a bunch of people at the funeral. There's a lot of people in like military garb, but there's also this woman that he spots who kind of gives him a look, and he tries to approach her, but he's stopped by her bodyguards. And she's taken away. And this is when he meets another of Charlie's friends, Bill Phillips.
Billups.
But Bill Phillips, this guy is full on like I'm assuming he is a Russian actor.
His name is Bashar Rahal.
Yeah, he's Bulgarian. So, he's straight up that, but Bill Phillips, just the most American name imaginable. And yet they gave our Canadian villain Vanko as his name. So he meets him, and he's a friend of Charlie's, and he decides to give him a ride. And then he explains what happened on this fishing accident, which, what a story for them to come up with. He was fishing, and I was like, oh, okay, so it was a fishing accident. Maybe his boat capsized. Maybe, he slipped and drowned, whatever. No. We have to up the ante on this story constantly. He was fishing, and he hooked a big fish. And you're like, oh, okay, did he like hurt himself or get pulled in? Oh, no, he actually tripped on the line and went into the water. Oh, so he drowned. Oh, no. He was chopped up by the propeller.
I get that they wanted to hide the body.
Well, he says that's why they had the closed casket.
Still, when they opened the casket, it apparently is incredibly immediately. Charlie knows it's not him.
Yes,
we know it's not Charlie. But like also a way to do this: drop the body at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah,
that's all you have to do. It's very funny. It feels like a meet cute between him and Billups here.
But then we find out later that Bill wasn't even there. He says he was there, but then he wasn't there. So how did he get this story?
Everyone's in on it in some way. Like the entire city of Sofia and most of Russia are in on this, which never really comes together well. Any movie that's like it is hard to make a twist-filled mystery story, right? It's hard. People who do it right are very good at what they do. A movie like this, as we have seen many times, love to do that because they can pad out their runtime by having people be both protagonists and antagonists, depending on where they are in the movie and everything like that. It does a very good saves money. You can just have different characters just keep doing different things. But it is hard to pull off well, and a lot of movies we watch at this budget level do it incredibly poorly. And this movie, like, the only person, like, it's one of those movies where you're watching and like, doesn't Steve Roberts realize what movie he's in? Like, it's all you can think of the entire time when he trusts anyone.
Yeah. It's something. I mean, the way that it tries to like do all of these things and set all these people up. So, I mean, but what I'm saying is, did he make up that story?
I think he was told it by someone. Like Alexa was apparently one of the witnesses.
Yes, as we find out later in a big shocking reveal. So
did she even speak in the last 10 minutes, or did she just look forlorn and walk away a lot?
I think, yeah, it's mostly forlorn and sad, but because she's a villain now.
I guess.
And I guess she's going to jail with a fake HIV charge.
Not sure what's going on with that, or that was necessary. Was that part of Charlie's plan?
So Bill decides, first he says that Steve can stay at his house, which is very nice of him to get this guy that he met at a cemetery and say that you can stay with me.
This is a nice meet cute for these two characters. They get along well. They both have American names. He's the friendliest person in the movie. Even Alexa's not that friendly.
No, not at all. So he says no. He's like, I'd rather stay at a hotel. And he's like, all right, fine. So he takes him to a hotel and gets him set up there. And there's a scene where they're talking to each other in the background of the shot. They're like standing kind of far away from the camera. And in front of the camera, taking up about half of the screen, there's a big guy holding a cell phone in his hand with his arms behind his back. And he's just twiddling the cell phone, and I could not stop focusing on him to pay attention to the scene. I was like, why is that guy there?
This person was the only person I found as interesting in the entire movie besides this person, because he's very distracting, is the girl who's hitting on the thugs. Drunkenly.
Yeah, that comes out of nowhere.
Who helps the plot along, but has nothing to do with the plot.
No, not at all. It's those little touches are fun, but I think that this guy with the cell phone is like a guy who works at the hotel that he talks to later and who also calls someone who is also in on it. But like, it's just such a weird distraction.
It's bad.
It feels like they could have figured out a better way to show that.
It's why you tell your extras not to do too much. Keep it low key.
And he goes to his room, and this is when he tries to call the United States, but is told that the satellite is down.
He can call the UK, but he can't call the United States. At this moment, he's told that literally no one in Bulgaria, at least in Sofia, but probably Bulgaria, because I doubt Sofia has its own satellite. You know what? I'm guessing most of Europe right now cannot call the US, and I know long distance was different back then, but this seems fucking ridiculous. And who was he going to call? I don't know. He never shows that he has any, like, his sensei. Like, he has no connection back home. I expected him to stay in Bulgaria at the end.
No, he can't, because the woman that he fell for is a villain.
Maybe she didn't. Maybe she did. Maybe that positive test wasn't faked.
So he's trying to call, but he can't. And then there is. At one point, he's asking Bill about the woman that he saw at the funeral, and he says, she's a call girl. Don't worry about her. She was Charlie liked her, but you know how Charlie was, and he's trying to figure out who she is, but he won't really. He tells her her name. He says Alexa, but he doesn't go into any more real details. And as he's trying to call on the phone, someone knocks on the door. And he goes over, and there is a pamphlet that has been slipped under the door showing Alexa, and it's this pamphlet for a club. And I love that he opens the door, and we see the guy quickly duck around the corner, like, very poorly.
I love getting little pamphlets at hotels that tell me where I can get pizza, maybe where like a rock climbing wall is. Or specifically for a specific exotic dancer in a club for an entire exotic dance. Sofia is a tricky city. That's all I'm saying right
now. But I just love the guy who, it felt like a mistake when you see this guy quickly duck behind the corner.
It was
like he's just right there. You could go walk around and go, "Hey, who are you?" He doesn't question it. He opens it. The guy's less than 4 feet away, and then he just closes the door.
He doesn't have that reporter's curiosity that you think he'd have.
Yeah, I would feel like that's the perfect place to have another action scene of him chasing this guy down. And and then the guy could be like just a hotel worker, and he could go, "I don't know, some guy paid me to put it under your door. I don't know." And he's like, "All right, who knows I'm here?" And then you start having him trying to figure things out. But no, he's just like, well, this is exactly what I was looking for.
He's like, what a fun coincidence. That's it. And that's it. he never questions her to a strong degree. I mean, he does for a second. He's still like,
Not
we'll
until
get
the
there.
end.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. He gets another knock at the door, and the head of Bulgarian security is there. Is that what her title is? Colonel Colonel Koslovska, I think is her name.
Yeah, played by who some of you may know as the leprous hag in the most recent Hellboy movie.
Oh, really?
Really?
That was one of the better parts of that movie. So
leprous hag. Good, great.
I think. Yeah, if I'm thinking of the right person, that was one of the better people in that movie. Okay, well that's interesting. So she shows up and she basically says, "What are you doing here?
Yeah.
What are you here trying to cover? I know you're a reporter, and because that's what your visa says." And then she's like, "The Bulgarian government needs your help." And then she wants to know what he knows about Charlie's work, but he doesn't know anything. So then she tells him, "Go home. You're useless. You shouldn't be here."
It's so funny how she goes from like being accusing him of being something. Also, so much of this movie's plot is set off by people going knocking on his door. And then she's plaintive and like looks him in the eye like, the Bulgarian government needs your help. And I'm like, this is just some foppish blonde-haired dude from Seattle. What the fuck do you like?
Who's
what can he do?
Reporter, like
yeah, he's a reporter. He's like I know he's going to bring the best martial arts that Bulgaria has ever seen.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Real quick, we'll pause for just a second because you did tell me to read this storyline description from IMDb, and you just brought it up, so we should do it. This is the story of the movie according to an anonymous contributor to IMDb. When reporter Steve Roberts acts on a call from his good friend, Dr. Charlie Vanko, nope, that's not what happens, urging him to leave Seattle and report on a hot scientific study in Bulgaria, he ends up in a world of disappearance, death, and deception. It begins with Dr. Vanko's suspicious death and funeral, where he meets Alexa Campos, a beautiful associate of the doctor's.
It's
a
his
romantic
girlfriend.
liaison between Alexa and Steve is thwarted by local thugs and military police who are all after the meddlesome Roberts.
No, it's not.
Roberts discovers what he should not, that the supposed blood research is in fact the development of a 100% addictive drug, Blue Mist.
By the way, when we talk about that, it's going to be funny.
And that Charlie was in on the whole deal with the Russian mob. So it tells you the entire movie in that storyline. The last line here is the most important, though. Roberts and Alexa must find a way out, their only hope being some pretty quick thinking and the best martial arts to ever hit Bulgaria.
It's funny because the best martial arts to ever hit Bulgaria is a guy who just does it to keep in shape.
And doesn't do martial arts that much.
Who wrote this? And
Anonymous.
Just fantastic.
They're taking down corrupt governments and also writing reviews and synopses on IMDb.
And getting weird details wrong. Like,
yes,
I
Dr. Vanko does not ask him to come over there. It's
He
some other random people who say that they're Dr. Vanko's friends, but in fact are not.
Right. And also, I read this and I expected at some point for the two, for Roberts and Alexa to be kissing and the thugs are breaking on it. That never happens.
No. And I expected he would at least meet with, like, the way they describe it. I read that before I watched the movie, and so I had in my head that Dr. Vanko was like an older guy who was friends with him, and they met up first, and then Dr. Vanko mysteriously died. And then, because he would have Charlie there, or he would have Steve there to sort of corroborate things and like take the kind of stink off of it maybe being a fake death or whatever. Like, oh yeah, this is of course how you would do it. You would bring your best friend in, and then you would fake it for your friend because he would believe that it was real and he could help sell that to the authorities and like get them off your trail. But like, no, he's just dead before he gets there and he doesn't even know he's coming.
No, and but we don't even know that until like very near the end. He yells at Steve and goes, "Why did you even come here?" And then and then the colonel comes up like, "Yeah, I set it up." But oh my god, there's so much about this.
So yeah, he goes to the club, where Alexa works, and there's some guys that follow him.
So this is an exotic dancer club, not a strip club.
Yes, it's an exotic dancer club.
Because at this point, I thought to myself, with this stage of movie, I thought maybe the Bulgarian business project just doesn't want to show nudity, because we get a lot of shots of her naked back, and no one takes their clothes off here, which is fine. And then later they show her breasts, and I'm like, why was this scene? Why did she need to be an exotic dancer? It has nothing to do with the plot.
No, it doesn't. I think it's just because they wanted to, have some titillation, and also to show kind of what sort of maybe they're casting some judgment on her because she is sort of a bad guy at the end.
Maybe.
And
I think in these movies they think that someone if they put a woman in the movie, they have to make them work at a strip club or exotic dancer.
Sure, yeah,
like Melanie Griffith.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, there we go. We got some stripping going on. In the club, there's women dancing. They're playing a song that sounds like a song that would be in a softcore sex scene in an erotic thriller. Some of the lyrics are talking about how the singer is a victim of their selfish pride. It's quite a song, and I was very put off by it.
I like that he goes back to meet Alexa, and he runs into the bodyguard, who is just this fucking guy from the Dick Tracy movie. He's got this gigantic orange suit on, and then in one of the few action scenes in the movie, he just punches him a lot.
Yeah, he tries to pay him to get in to the back to meet her, and the guy takes his money and still won't let him in. And then they get into a fight, and he eventually punches him out and takes some of his money back, but still throws a couple dollars at the guy for his efforts, I guess.
I mean, he tried. He literally is just doing his job.
Yeah. He goes back and he meets her, and they talk a little bit, and he wants to know what she knows about Charlie's work. So they agree to meet for breakfast the next day,
as you do,
to talk about it. The next morning,
quiche.
The next morning we get a great little scene here where he goes outside, and the two guys who were following him earlier are sitting outside in the car. And we know this is a silly scene because they're playing some like wacky kind of jazz music on top of this sequence. And he goes out, and the guys who are watching him try to pretend like they're not watching him by looking away, whistling, and looking at the newspaper, trying to avoid eye contact with this guy. And he just gets in the back of their car, and they sort of don't seem to notice it at first, and then he just punches them both out.
They're a running joke through the whole movie, which was weird.
Yeah, they are, and they worked for Yarrow, right? The head of the Russian mob?
I lost track because I
think they do.
There's a scene later where where Charlie and him are meeting up, and literally like everyone within a 25-foot radius is clearly spying on them in broad daylight.
Oh, at the scene at the zoo?
At the zoo with the most adorable round fat bear you've ever seen.
Where there's no martial arts happening?
There was no martial arts happening. He does not fight a bear. I thought he was going to for a second. But,
yeah.
Like, I was trying to figure out if they all saw each other, or like it was, they were talking about stuff that, like, I mean, he was going on like, how did everyone later on, like, how does everyone know I'm alive? I'm like, fucking, you told him about it in your loudest voice possible in front of, or clearly like 19 people spying on you.
And these guys that he punches out just have exaggerated black eyes and bandages on their faces for the rest of the movie.
They're fucking Muppets.
It's pretty great. So then he does some investigative reporting work here, where he goes to the place where they rented out the boat that Charlie supposedly died on, and he finds the captain of the boat that Charlie was on, and the guy doesn't really want to help him at first. He was like, I don't want to tell you anything. Nothing like that's ever happened in my entire career. But Steve convinces him by beating up a young teen who works with this captain.
He convinces a lot of people by beating them up. I wrote down here, it is a good thing that so many of these Bulgarians speak English. And then I thought,
yeah, very true.
Because like everyone he interrogates all speak fluent English, which is great for him because in theory he could be in a city trying to solve a mystery and literally not be able to speak to a single person.
Yeah, that would add some dramatic tension there, but we can't have that. I'm surprised they didn't come up with a reason like that we're hearing everyone speak Bulgarian. It's just that it's been translated into English for us.
Every now and then someone the closed captioning test says Bulgarian in the middle of a sentence. But
yeah.
Like here's where you could have Alexa have been Charlie's translator and girlfriend, and he could use Alexa as his translator.
Yeah,
and
sure.
That's what she does, because I know she's supposed to be Bulgarian, but the actress isn't Bulgarian. She's German.
No, she's not. So the captain here tells him that Charlie's friend Boev was also on the boat, and his assistant, I think. And as the captain is trying to tell him more things, some guys show up with machine guns and start blasting the place. Blasting the water factory.
Oh, man. Funniest fucking scene in the movie when they blow up all these water bottles. So many water. Were they fishing for water bottles? Like, what is going on here?
I don't know.
Because
I don't know what this is, but it's just jugs of water getting blasted.
The machine gun guys are really great timing. They no less than 2 times in the movie did they step in with 1 sentence away from a plot point being revealed and killing the person who's gonna say it. But like the fucking water bottles, because like we're told like this is the Fishers. The guy he's talking to says like he takes the best fishers in the world. He never had a single travesty. No one's ever died because he knows to turn off the motor when
when someone falls into the water.
So he's the best at it, and then he's dead. So to the point where like when he shows up with Alexa at breakfast later, she's like, "What have you been through?" And he should just be soaked in water and like just say like water bottle accident.
Yeah, he just goes to breakfast after these machine gun guys run away. And he was like, I'm looking into something I shouldn't have been, or he says something like that. And so he starts asking her about what Charlie was doing. And she says, oh, he was doing AIDS research. And they were like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense why he was murdered, because they think that he might have been murdered. And they were worried that that his AIDS research would mean outside funding, which was a good thing. So they don't know why he would have been murdered. And they're trying to figure out what's going on. So they want to go to his house and see if he had any research there that he might have been working on that they could try to get some more information. She thankfully has a key because, of course, she used to stay with him. And so they go to the house from earlier. It's been cordoned off with candy cane tape.
Santa Claus is doing a very thorough investigation of this by leaving everything on the floor.
That was not from the authorities. That was just Charlie was getting ready to decorate for Christmas, and he left it out.
Bulgarian Christmas is a beautiful time of year.
And they go inside, and it turns out the house has already been ransacked. Which again, who did this? Was this the government who did this?
It does not matter.
It doesn't matter because there's too many like forces against each other. There's like the government trying to stop Charlie. There's the Russian mob. He's double crossed them. We find out later for the Turkish mob. Like it's a whole thing.
And like they were going through all this evidence, and the only evidence is in one single computer that someone apparently tried to break into once and then gave up.
Yeah. So I love this part.
It left in perfectly fine condition.
Yeah, I love this part because this is when he tells her like a story about Charlie. So they're walking around this house, which is a fine house, but they're like, oh, pretty nice place he had here. Just like kind of shitty. But he tells her a story about how Charlie always wanted to have like the finest things in life when he was younger. And then he tells him this heard this deranged story about how Charlie was cheating off of someone in school on a test, and then he was cheating off Charlie, and he got caught, and he was getting sent to the principal, but then Charlie did the right thing, and he stepped up and said that he cheated, and as a result of his honesty, he got a black eye from his dad, and he was like, and he was real proud of it, and I was real proud of him.
And then he been standing out for him ever since. He talks about Charlie like he's his big brother, which is odd because they're clearly from that story and together the same age, or Charlie's a bit younger than him.
Yeah, and clearly haven't talked in quite some time.
Quite like he does his whole story like how like Charlie's his best friend. He knows him better than anyone. Only he would know his password on one try. And all
oh my God.
And all this nonsense. And he clearly doesn't know the guy that well. Because everything he thinks, the whole point of the story is like he thinks he knows Charlie better than everyone. He's wrong. That's the plot.
So they go to the hospital where Charlie works doing his research, and he's looking for his assistant or his partner, Emil Boev. And the nurse says, well, he hasn't been here in many days, and it's unusual because he has good attendance because he's the employee of the month. And then we turn and see a piece of paper with his picture on it taped to the wall just in a random corner.
It's so fun. It looks like a shitty missing cat poster.
Well, we find out later it kind of is. Because he is missing. It's so funny.
It doesn't need to be in this movie, so it thus makes it so funny.
No, it's she goes, see, and she just points over his shoulder, and Steve turns and looks, and then just slapped in the corner is this computer printout of this guy's picture with just hand lettered things with his name on it.
It would have been so funny if at the very end when he's holding him up by his wrist and he's about to fall to his death, he went like, Charlie, congratulations on being employee of the month.
So then another doctor comes out, and this is Dr. Kruger, and he says, no, Boev is sick. He's not here. Go away.
As doctors often say.
Yeah, and Steve is like, well, the best part was when Dr. Kruger comes out, and he tells the nurse, like, all right, you can get out of here. I'll deal with this. And they just have this meeting in the lobby of this hospital where there's all these sick people sitting around.
Thank God it's pre-pandemic, right?
Well, there's one guy who's like, looks like he's holding a bloody rag to his head. You're just like, these two guys are yelling about.
This is just what Sofia is, my friend. It's a tricky city.
And Steve kind of fakes like he has some info about the work that Charlie was doing, but he won't share it unless Dr. Kruger lets him inside the office, and Dr. Kruger won't. And so he leaves, and Dr. Kruger makes a phone call, and some guys chase Steve into the subway, where we get a pretty fun camera trick with...
There's two camera tricks in this movie.
With just Gary Daniels holding the camera, because you can even see his arms out kind of holding it, pointed at his face as he runs through the subway, and the camera's bouncing around, and we're very close to his face. It's pretty good. Is
it better or worse than when Charlie and Steve meet each other and they do that zoom where their faces are static, but the background is zooming out from behind them? Because that was fucking hilarious.
They're doing that like rack zoom where they zoom in while they move the camera, so it creates this weird disorienting kind of effect. I think Spike Lee loves to do that in his movies, but the director must have watched one and goes, I'm going to try this, and then did it in this movie.
But he's bouncing around, and then they finally catch up to him, and he just starts throwing dudes into walls.
Yeah, he kicks these guys' asses in the stairwell of the subway, but that's not enough to deter them, because then they end up in a farmer's market, fighting in a farmer's market, and it's so funny because there's guys grabbing vegetables. He kicks this guy while he's holding 2 heads of lettuce. smashes a box of tomatoes on another guy.
He's got two metal pipes out of nowhere at some
why
point.
Is there a pipe stand there? They just grab these metal pipes that are sitting on this in this booth and just start swinging them.
And that's just craft, locally sourced pipes.
And then someone shows up with a gun and just starts blasting people. Like regular people at this farmer's market are just getting killed.
That's how Sofia is. Tricky city, I keep telling you.
Very tricky.
This doesn't make the news. Like this, the one blonde guy in town is fighting every fucking person.
Yeah. So
the movie should be more of this. This needs to be more of the movie. I also love that the closed captioning, every fight scene had the phrase "breathing heavily" because it sounded like everybody was out of breath.
He gets away from this situation. He runs off while they blast up this farmer's market and kill who knows how many people, and gets back to his hotel and then is immediately knocked out by the door when he walks in.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, and wakes up holding grenades in his hands. And there's these two guys who we find out are Interpol agents.
They show him like a fucking like little stamp as their badge.
Yeah,
it looks real bad.
And they're holding the pins from the grenades, and Colonel Koslovka is there, and she's basically mad at him. She wants him to go home. Basically, she says that
she doesn't though.
Well, sort of. I mean, it's her messaging is confusing because she's like, in
theory, based on the ending, at no point does she actually want him to leave.
True, very true. She says that she believes the Russian mafia was involved in Vanko's death, but she also believes that Vanko was involved with the Russian mafia. So she's like, there's some dangerous stuff happening here. You're getting too mixed up and stuff. So if you leave this room, you'll be arrested. But you're right. Judging by the end of the movie, she fully expected him to leave the room.
Right. But she didn't let her people in on it.
No. Which he does decide to leave the room in the most comical way imaginable. Is exactly the way that you would expect. But that he orders room service, and as the guy comes in, he knocks him out and steals his outfit.
And like I said, the guards are distracted by this drunk woman flirting with them.
Which they're flirting back with her, and I didn't know what this was. I thought for a second, I was like, is she one of the agents? But no, she's just a random woman who's flirting with these two dumpy guys in suits in a hotel hallway.
If she hadn't been there, his plan doesn't quite work. Other than they in theory, do want him to get out. Number two, so he's the only non-Bulgarian looking person in this hotel who happens to be working as a delivery person in the hotel. And like anytime he's not Arnold Schwarzenegger or any of these giant guys.
No, but he's pretty jacked.
He's pretty jacked. So when he walks in through the hallway,
when he goes out in that guy's shirt that does not fit him and his arms are bulging out of the sleeves.
His shoulders are so fucking broad. Like when he's wearing this outfit someone else is wearing, all of a sudden you realize like, holy shit, this guy is gigantic.
But he's not as big as Alexa, which is also funny later on when you see them walking next to each other, and she looks like an alien next to him. She's so tall.
Because he's taller than everybody else. He's got these giant shoulders. He like walks into the kitchen to like celebrate his plan working, and he's just this huge blonde dude in this room full of smaller Bulgarians. And then the girl he's after is in real life a German model who is very tall.
She's like 8 feet tall or something. It's very funny, too. I give them credit for this because a lot of times you see this thing happen a lot. They knock out guards and they steal their uniforms and they just happen to fit perfectly. Like, I really feel like he was wearing the same outfit that guy was because that guy was so much smaller than him, and this shirt does not look like it fits even a little bit.
I would guess that in life, at this point in his life and at this size, not a whole lot fit him in real life either.
That's why he's always in those loose plaid shirts.
I mean, it's the moment that like the loose 90s ended and he had to wear shirts that actually fit him, it must have been such a fucking drag.
He would have to get like lots of tailoring done. I think that's how that works. Like for guys like that, and he's not nearly as big as like Stallone or Arnold or anything like that, but those guys have to get like all of their clothes custom fitted, like and custom tailored, so that the chest and the shoulders and the arms are huge, but the waist is like super small, so
Like-
you can't. No normal person could ever wear it.
Right. Like there's not there in 2000 before online stores. There's no shot that's like, okay, tiny waist, enormous shoulders, enormous chest. Like he's so upper body. Like and like you don't, like I said, you don't notice it until the scene where, because he's wearing baggy stuff all the time. And all of a sudden he's just wearing someone else's clothes and doesn't fit. And you're like, Jesus Christ, he's a fucking monster. He's Frankenstein. What the hell's going on here?
He sneaks out. I love when he comes out of the little elevator and he pulls the outfit off and he's like, "Health inspector, shape up." As he runs out of the kitchen.
He rarely quips too in this movie. So
rarely. So it was pretty fun. So he goes to Alexa's apartment and he finds that it's also been ransacked.
Every time we mention Alexa, I'm thinking about fucking Amazon.
Yeah, I know. I'm wondering how like that works if you have an Alexa. Sorry if we're activating it in your home. And he's like constantly talking to her. Does your device just keep going off constantly, ordering you Gary Daniels movies from the internet?
I mean, you can switch. I know you can switch Google Home to other stuff. Like I can say, "Hey Google," right now, and the thing behind me is going to go off. But luckily, not many movies have a character named "Hey Google." Yet.
You should change it to be like, "Hey Steve Roberts."
Shut up, Google. Anyways,
and we're gonna have to pay for that now, I'm sure.
Oh, great.
Sponsor us. So he goes to her apartment. It's been ransacked, and she says that they told her that if she ever sees Steve again, she'll be locked up in jail under a fake HIV charge, which apparently in Bulgaria carries a life sentence.
Jesus Christ. And this is made by Bulgaria to promote Bulgaria.
Yeah. Come to Bulgaria, where all of our HIV positive people are in jail for life.
Everybody who who's terrified of fucking vaccine and passports, go fuck yourself.
Go move to Bulgaria.
Holy shit. This came out of nowhere.
It's so strange. And it's really funny because, as we mentioned in the mini episode last week, the last time we saw Gary Daniels was in Firepower, which also has a weird subplot about HIV and AIDS vaccines. And that's apparently what Charlie is working on, or at least the cover that he was working on. So it's very weird that Gary Daniels keeps putting himself in movies with this. I wonder how many films of his have an HIV AIDS subplot.
One day we'll find out. It was out of nowhere.
I'm sure there's a DVD box set of like Gary Daniels, the HIV collection.
Yes. The HIV videos.
Oh my god.
This is like where he starts to like question, like, stop your innocent bullshit. I'm like, the problem is Alexa has one tone of voice. So
yeah, she's not the best actor, I will say. Like it's not her fault, but like I'm sure the direction was trash on this movie. But yeah, I don't think that they don't like give her much to do, and they don't give her much to work with. And yeah, she really doesn't have, like, even when she seems to be scared or any, like, there doesn't seem to be any real change in her tenor.
Yeah, like they give her this bogus AIDS test thing where she's supposed to be upset, but it's the same tone of voice she's been using. Then they, on top of that, give her where she's afraid to be hit.
Oh boy, this is rough. Like, they get into an argument, and
is this fake though?
See, I don't know. I don't know that it is. I think that Charlie is a piece of shit, and I don't think that she's in on it. She knows that Charlie's not dead, but as they reveal at the end, she is trying to get away from him and get out of the country.
But when given the choice to leave him, she doesn't. Because they give a 3-second pause on her where Steve goes, "And you?" And she just looks off into space, which is kind of how she acts the entire movie. But yeah, like they have her like him like get upset at her, and she does like, "Don't hit me," and it's like, wow,
Yeah.
that's upsetting. And
and this is when he finally starts to realize that maybe his best friend wasn't that good of a guy.
it's so weird that half the plot of the movie is I know this guy better than everyone, and the other half the plot of the movie is I don't know him fucking at all.
Yeah, I didn't know what he was working on. I hadn't spoke to him in some time, and also apparently he hits women quite regularly.
And he's willing to destroy the planet, pretty much, for profit.
She reveals here too that the Russians, the Russian mob, had financially funded some of his research because he needed more money, and they stepped in.
Yeah, the Russian mob just really wants to eliminate HIV.
Well, as we find out later, we understand why they did. So she reveals
that reveal should have told him.
Yes,
all
for sure. That maybe he wasn't doing HIV/AIDS research after all. But she reveals that the head of the Russian mob in Bulgaria, Yara, was also on the boat when Charlie died.
Yeah, and he should know that the real evil people are working on trying to sell us diabetes medicine at an incredibly high cost.
So the next day, they're kind of flirting a little bit. She makes him breakfast, and he's like, "Oh, keep cooking like this, and I'll never want to leave." And you're like, "Oh, okay." They're setting up a relationship with them.
It's just so gross, honestly. Like, he just met her boyfriend, who's his best friend, just died, and he's like, already going like, maybe I've known her for 2 days. Maybe it's time for me to get inside that. It's like,
well, he only has to wait 2 more days. So,
in a moment of terrible timing, I think.
Yes. So they go to see Billups at the cafe, and I thought Billups was just a normal guy, but it turns out he's also connected to the mob in some way because he's also got bodyguards who stand on the street, watching out for anyone approaching him while he's eating breakfast. And so I don't really know what Bill Phillips's connection is with all of this, what kind of person he is.
It doesn't
I thought
matter
he was a cop
anymore.
at first, but
maybe
no.
It doesn't matter anymore. And his bodyguard, not useful.
Not useful at all, because he says that he knows that Charlie was killed by the mob, and Phillips starts to tell him what's going on, and suddenly a car careens around the corner and immediately kills Bill Phillips with machine gun
This is
fire.
the second scene where someone with machine guns kills somebody one sentence away from revealing the plot of the movie.
And then they have a nice shootout in the street. There's guys on motorcycles chasing them around. This is when Steve shoots a gun pretty well, and you're like, well, I don't know how he knows that. We should have seen him at the beginning of the movie at a shooting range.
With his gun sensei.
With his gun sensei. Gun sensei, I'm afraid I'll never be good enough.
I'm always ending up being the one shot. I do like that he said, when Lex is like, why don't you just go home? He's like, my sensei says I lack follow through. And I'm like, why don't you go fuck yourself?
I also lack follow through on that.
You're a fucking middle-aged man.
So there's a shootout, and then these guys on motorcycles chase them. They jump into a car and they drive off.
This is so funny.
They're on the worst street imaginable. There is this huge fucking pothole that this car has to avoid driving into at one point.
And this is our second movie ever that has my favorite line. So first he's being chased or being shot at, and he goes, shit! In his voice that he never uses. And then he goes, Jesus Christ! Which I love when anytime our main character goes, Jesus Christ, about anything.
There's no lane markers on this road. It's very concerning, and I could not follow what was happening here.
No,
because
this might have been shot in a hurricane. Like, I couldn't figure out anything.
There are guys on motorcycles. There's them in the car. They are shooting. Alexa's shooting a shotgun. There are multiple scenes where their back window goes from broken to fixed between shots. That was very confusing. There's also another white car that's slightly different from the one they're in. I don't know who's in that. That blows up, but I don't know why or who was driving it, or if they're even bad guys, or if they're just random people on the road.
There are times in this movie that it seems like everyone in the city is in on this.
Yeah.
And so it has this moment of like why is he ever relaxed to have breakfast?
Yeah, I don't.
He's been
know.
shot in every possible spot.
It's so funny that he thinks he can just go sit down and talk to someone without people opening fire on him at this point. I mean, he couldn't do it at the water factory. He cannot do it here at breakfast.
This scene is so poorly shot. I love it. It's just what I want in a bad action movie.
It's great. So they decide, all right, we're going to go to the hospital and we're going to get into Charlie's office and see if there's any information there that we can use to find out what he was really working on. And he sneaks in pretty easily. Like, they're hiding against a wall and they think that this I can't tell if this is a nurse and a patient or two nurses, or I don't know what is happening with these people in the hallway, but they get right to the edge where they might see them, and then they turn around and go back like a fucking video game.
Yeah, they never got in their vision cone. So
that's right. They never alerted them. We never saw a question mark or an exclamation mark pop up above their head. They did not have to hide in a cardboard box to get around there.
Oh, he's got it figured out. He's played a lot of PlayStation.
They go into his office and they realize, oh, someone else has already been here, apparently trying to get in, but they failed and they just left the computer. They didn't take it with them. They didn't do anything else.
Because you can't, if you can't figure out the password to something, and you have mob connections or government connections, you might as well just leave the whole computer there, or in this case, the monitor. It seemed like.
So he needs a password. He types in something. We don't know what. It doesn't work. Then he types in the next thing, and it immediately works. And he says, "Citizen Kane, his favorite movie."
And then she turns to him and goes, "Only you would know that." Because he's a rich guy. What makes
why is that in the movie? Why are they referencing Citizen Kane? Why does it have to be his favorite movie? Why I don't understand why that's the choice they made.
You know what his first attempt was, though, right?
Alexa?
Steve Roberts.
That's what I was hoping it would be, is that, like, I'm his best friend, so of course he would use me as his computer password.
Have you, for all the people trying to hack Josh's stuff here, have you ever used your favorite movie for the password for, I don't know, a super drug formula that the entire Russian mafia and government is after?
No, I use your name.
Thanks.
I gotta go change it now. So he
Brian Skinner 123 exclamation mark.
He clicks on, so he gets into the thing and he sees a couple buttons on this computer interface, and one of them says formula, and he clicks on it and says, "Oops, I think I just deleted a formula."
Oh man, if only he had.
Hey, he's a reporter. He's not a computer expert. He doesn't know that you're not just supposed to click on a button because that might delete something.
Usually it would say delete. Also, I'm glad he has a English operating system in Bulgaria.
What did he delete, though?
A formula.
But what formula? Because when he finally gets in and sees all the formulas, they're all there.
What if Charlie had also on the side also cured AIDS?
Well, no, he's only 86% on that one. He probably cured cancer, and this idiot just deleted the formula for it.
No, that'd be so funny if he was like, they're having their argument at the end. He's like, "You made this incredibly addictive drug." He's like, "I also cured cancer. I didn't see that in there. Oh, it's the first formula in there. I deleted by mistake. You asshole."
No, you didn't click on the formula, did you? Because if you click on the formula button, I've set that to delete the formula. It's a very smart workaround in case anyone hacks into my computer.
God damn it. I hate how movies from this age just did not understand computers.
It's so great. But they find out, they go through and they see his list of things. And the top one is
porn,
HIV AIDS. And it's like at 86%. And then he's got a couple other things in the middle. And I don't remember what those were, but they were at like various levels of completion. And then at the very bottom is Blue Mist. And that's 100% complete. And so they click on it. And it turns out, according to Alexa, that Blue Mist is a new drug in Bulgaria that, according to her, is 100% addictive.
I love that she calls it a new drug in Bulgaria because it's specific to Bulgaria somehow.
That's right. It has not gotten out yet. That's the whole key of the movie, is that the government essentially uses Steve to figure out where Charlie is so that they can stop Blue Mist from escaping the country and completely destroying the planet.
Yep. And then it thankfully he has a real player file of a video of it on a cellular level where Blue Mist is apparently blue sparks that attaches itself to human DNA. and then our martial arts reporter goes, oh, it's a genetic narcotic. Like he knows that's not a thing, and yet he knows that's what it is at a glance.
This is exactly what the people who are the anti-vax people who won't take the COVID vaccine, this is what they think that the COVID vaccine does to you. It attaches itself to your DNA and changes you in some way.
It's 100% addictive. I can't stop getting booster shots. I'm just, projectile vomiting black bile.
Yeah, or jerking off with blood or whatever that guy was having to deal with.
I told Jackie all about it.
So as they're standing there watching this and being amazed by what they're seeing, Dr. Kruger bursts in and starts shooting at them and catches a bunch of stuff on fire. What happens to him? I can't even remember what happens to him. Does he die? Did they shoot him or did they just punch him out?
I don't know.
I can't even remember what happens to this guy because then they get out into the hallway and he fights some guys in the hallway. And then they decide to go visit the slums full of Blue Mist addicts.
That he didn't know Blue Mist existed, and all of a sudden he's in the slums where only Blue Mist addicts are.
Yeah, this is they just happen to wander out of the hospital, and there they are, right there.
Right there. And the first is some kid who's just doing Mr. Peepers from SNL. He keeps clapping his hands. If he gave him an apple, he would have spit it everywhere.
It's not maybe the most sensitive portrayal of drug addiction that we've ever seen.
No, these are the only people who can't speak English in Bulgaria.
Yes, they're asking for things. Alexa sees someone she used to know, a dancer who is now addicted to Blue Mist. I guess it manifests in different ways in different people because this woman has weird crusty bits all over her nose and mouth. And there is a man who pops up next to her and starts demanding something in Bulgarian.
And stabs her.
And then stabs her right in the leg. And obviously Steve runs in and punches this guy out and then takes her home to clean up her leg wound. And as she passes out, as he's cleaning up her leg, he's like, oh, what am I doing here?
I want to stress, she's been stabbed with a knife, and he just took her home not to a hospital, because we know the hospital's crooked.
That's right. They were right next to a hospital, but they didn't go into there.
At some point,
it's on fire now, I guess.
During his half-assed keep-in-shape martial arts training and his reporting, he knows how to properly clean and wrap a knife wound.
Yeah, pretty deep one, too. It's pretty gnarly looking.
Not enough to stop them from boning.
Well, she did have 2 days to heal, which I love this. She wakes up and she's like, because we see they do this great thing here. It felt very Darkman almost, the way the camera is tilting as it moves into him as he's dealing with this leg wound and stuff. And she wakes up and she's like, well, how long was I out? And he was like, 2 days. He's like, there's no food in the house, but I didn't want to leave in case you woke up. And I was like, he must be starving.
Well, he just needed a feast. So he thought he'd eat a peach.
Well, yeah, he gets mad at her, and he's mad about Charlie. And this is when she drops the titular line, how Bulgaria is a city of fear, and she stayed with him because she was afraid if she didn't. And he's getting into an argument, and she kisses him passionately, and then they fuck. So she's got this leg wound that's probably not fully healed yet.
Probably
might still be oozing, as it's kind of healing up and doing its thing. She's just down to bone.
She's just been sweating in bed, sick with his wound healing for 2 days. Hasn't aged.
She probably stinks very bad.
She's probably also starved. She's probably needs more medication than she's got. But he lays on top of her wound and goes to town. And
well,
then
that's
she's
what they
not
say. You're supposed to put pressure on a stab wound.
just pressure over and over repeatedly, then up and then down, and then up and then down. You knew they were going to do it because the movie was going to make them do it.
Of course.
But also at the same time, I'm like, Jesus Christ, there's no reason for them to do this. And like, it's so, of course she's not there when he wakes up, because now that they've gotten to the point of intimacy, now we can switch it where she's in on it.
Well, it's very funny because he wakes up and he looks out the window and she's being carried away by some men. And he just very casually grabs his jacket and goes to the police station.
Then he like goes to the police station, sees her down the hallway talking to a bunch of Interpols who are all shorter than her. And then this is when he decides, this is when he knows definitively, out of nowhere, that inside that casket is not Charlie.
Yeah, he's like, well, we got to go. He goes, grab your shovels. Because he is British in this. We did talk about that in the mini. I was wondering if he was going to have to downplay his accent, and he doesn't. It's pretty flat, but he's definitely got an accent, except when he yells, like you mentioned, Skinner. He gets very British when he yells.
So like throughout the movie, he's basically saying Charlie, but when they go dig up Charlie or the casket, because like I said, all of a sudden he definitively knows that's not going to be Charlie in there, and they open it up and everyone's disgusted. They're almost going to puke, and he goes, "That's not Charlie." I'm like, whoa, he's got no birthmark.
Yeah, okay. What is this bullshit? He doesn't have a birthmark on his chest. How can you see his chest? What he supposedly got ground up in a propeller. What are you seeing?
I mean, whenever I grab a nice chunk of ground beef at the grocery store, I look to see if it has a chest birthmark left on it.
Like, yeah, this cow really loved the ocean. Like, it's got an anchor and everything.
In theory, it's not even Charlie in there. It's ground chuck.
So he says, yeah, that's not him. That's Boev, Emil Boev. So he recognized the face of the guy on the wall enough to know that that's him in the thing. So that's why I'm thinking that the guy wasn't ground up by any sort of propeller, but the captain said that he was. So I don't understand. I don't know if the captain was lying in order to protect himself.
I mean, they opened it like it was disgusting. Like everyone jumped back and he's like, oh,
I mean, it's been like 3 days, so the body wouldn't be like disgusting at that point, especially if it's been embalmed and all that shit.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an odd scene.
I mean, they should have opened the casket and just had a bunch of red water flow out of it.
It's full of Stunny D. Anyways, like, why did he know that at this point that Charlie wasn't going to be in there? What happened?
I have no idea, and I also don't know how in the next scene he knows that Charlie's going to be at the zoo.
Like, the movie just all of a sudden decides, like, all right, let's go see Charlie, and like. Okay, like I said, this whole movie has been like talking about Charlie, and then Charlie shows up, and Charlie's a fucking cartoon.
Yeah,
he's asthmatic. What does this lead to?
That he needs to take a hit off his inhaler, and that allows him to be shot by a sniper.
Fantastic.
It's so bizarre. Like, he goes to the zoo, and suddenly Charlie's there, and he's surprised by this.
Yeah, the whole background looks before the whole background's go whoop, like it's a Batman. The
but
old
he
Batman,
knows that he's not dead. Like, we just saw the scene where he knows that that's not Charlie in the casket. So why is he surprised?
I don't know. And all they had to do was like have someone a hint of like, okay, Alexa's in on it. Alexa told me to meet you here. That's not what happens. No one ever suggests that.
No. But so he says that he had to fake his own death because everybody wants the formula for Blue Mist. But if he's dead, so is the formula for Blue Mist. It can die with him, which doesn't make any sense because it's on his computer. And
you can't. If you don't know his favorite movie, you can never get in there. There's no such thing as cryptologists.
But it also doesn't make any sense later because it sounds like, I guess he's playing Steve here.
He is, but I don't know why he is. He also, in theory, doesn't know why Steve is even here.
No, because Steve doesn't say. Steve never once says, "Hey, some friends of yours told me to come here and do a story on your work." Like, and then he could say, "No, I never sent anybody for you. I don't know why you're here." And then that could, be a whole other thing. But they don't bother with that. They're like, it doesn't matter.
In theory, he doesn't know why Steve is here, yet he knows, and I guess maybe tells his girlfriend to have sex with him. Like, how much is he pulling the strings before he shows up here?
See, I think Alexa is not. She knows that he's not dead, but she also, like I said earlier, wants to get away from him. So I think the sex is for her. I think she's trying to endear herself.
She's trapped,
Steve.
like, and she's stuck in this small plastic puck where she can only be asked questions and never leave.
I think she wants to try to use Steve to help her get out of the country.
Or she can just fucking walk. I don't know.
Well, she can't. She has that knife wound in her leg.
Oh, that's right.
So they talk, and he kind of, I mentioned earlier, he starts spouting off this anti-American screed about the regime that they've put into Bulgaria and how it's no good, and and that's the part that the Bulgarian Business Association really wanted to push. And Charlie gets like he has these guys around him who are like, I guess, his goons, because they kind of do this weird synchronized thing where they start heading for him at the same time, and they like throw something to him, and he's like, "Oh, that's my cue, gotta go." And
they like walk between them, and they grab him, but the two guys with the face punched out, they're there too.
But those are Yara's guys, and the cops are also there, which I thought, oh, did he like tell the cops that he was going to find Charlie and they were going to show up and try to arrest him? But no, they're just there to look at the animals, I guess.
It looks like everyone's just watching them do it, and it looks, because it's shot in broad fucking daylight. Yeah. I thought they noticed everyone was there too, but later Charlie's like, "How did the police know?"
Yeah, Charlie's an idiot. So Steve gets knocked out by these two comically bruised guys from earlier, and he wakes up in Yara's limo while it's getting a car wash.
This is so fucking funny. What a great scene.
And basically Yara tells him, like, leave by the morning or you'll be killed. Also, Alexa will be killed. But Yara seems to have a fondness for Alexa. And he also says that I wasn't on the boat, so I don't have any idea what happened on the boat because I wasn't there, even though he'd been told that he was. So now it's a whole thing. I do love that he makes him get out of the limo, and they shoot it like it's this like very emotional, powerful scene set in the rain. It's just at a car wash.
I've never seen a scene like this, so I'm always appreciative of someone going like, coming up with something stupid but novel.
Yeah, it's great. And so then they go back to the farmer's market. They just redressed it to look slightly different, like it's a street carnival or something now. And he starts to talk to Alexa about like why she'd been lying to him about Yara. And she's like, "Oh, I was just a companion to him. That's all. We didn't have like sex or anything." But she apparently introduced Yara to Charlie, and that's how the Russian mob in Bulgaria started to fund his work into Blue Mist. I think. I literally at this point, the plot just kept going and at such a pace that I kind of like, I realized none of this is going to fit. I'm just going to laugh at how Charlie is so overacting gigantically. Yeah, so they've set up this thing with the cops where they have called Charlie to help them get out of the country, and then the cops are all in on it so they can be there to basically arrest him. And there's some subterfuge where they get them into a underground tunnel and then get them to this old factory, and Charlie reveals that a chopper is going to take them to Turkey, and that he basically double-crossed the Russian mob to work with the Turkish.
Happy about this. Like I can't even put into I can't express on the show through audio. Like he is so pleased. He's shouting this. His arms are wide. His mouth is wide open. His eyes are shining like he ate all the cocaine in Bulgaria. Like he is just.
He might have.
It is incredible how much more energy he has than ever. Like the second he shows up, everyone else is like, "Oh, you're all boring. Put more Charlie on the screen."
Yeah, I think he's a definite like shot in the arm when he shows up. Like he definitely makes the movie more fun. And it is kind of a shame that he wasn't in the beginning of the movie a little bit. Like you got to see him before he quote died, and then he gets to come back and like really be. Maybe he's a little more subdued at the beginning, and then he comes back at the end and he's like wild eyed and nutty. But yeah,
the idea of this guy is a genius.
No, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Like, not like who has 86% solved the cure for HIV. Makes no sense.
No.
Which is funny when you think about it for more than a second. But yeah, the actor's name is Richard Clark, and if you want to look him up, you'll just see by the structure of his face how much fun he can be in a movie.
Yeah, he's aged into a very very rugged, handsome man.
He should be in Hallmark movies. I know he was in Lorena Bobbitt movie.
Oh,
but he should be in every Hallmark movie. He's just got so much. Maybe he played Mr. Howard. I don't know who that is.
Then no, I don't think she was chopping off any other dicks other than her husband's. This is when Steve reveals that like the cops and Interpol know that he's alive and they're on their way, and he kind of freaks out about it. A chopper shows up with, I guess, the Turkish military on it. I'm not really sure who these people are. A bunch of cops arrive. There's a big gunfight that our heroes are not involved in at all.
At all. The Russian rob's there because he's shocked that they're there. And doesn't Steve basically say, like, I told everybody?
Yeah, he basically says, I revealed everything, and this is, and Charlie gets all freaked out. Charlie runs off. Steve gets his ass kicked for a little bit by these two random guys that he then beats up, and he goes after Charlie. And then we get basically Donkey Kong for like a second or two, because it's them on a series of fire escapes and scaffolding.
I wanted more of this.
I mean, at no point does Charlie throw any barrels at Steve, which was a little disappointing, but
it's funny that they're doing the thing where Steve won't kill Charlie won't kill him because there's something between them still, or something. Of
course,
and everything else. But like,
Charlie just wants his friend to go with him and
he kind
do
of
illegal work for the rest of
his life. And like, it's not like Steve's a cop.
No,
he's just a reporter who doesn't have a job.
Yeah,
and like, I don't sense why he's so dedicated to justice or whatever. But like, ostensibly, like he's like, oh, it ends up where Charlie falls and Steve's holding on to him to try to save his life.
Well, okay, you're cutting out some very important things here. So sure. they finally get to the top of this structure on the side of this factory, and Charlie starts having an asthma attack, and he hits off his inhaler, and a guy on the ground shoots him at this point, and he on his leg, I think, and he flips over the side and is grabbing onto the pole to try to hang on, and Steve is across a little chasm from him on another platform. So then he has to climb across and dangle across on some I-beams and some other stuff. Again, very Darkman-like, to get over to the other side in order to grab Charlie, who is now dangling off the side. And Charlie's barely hanging on, and it's very silly. And then he says, I ain't saying Rosebud yet.
So bad. How are you supposed to? Charlie's a piece of shit.
Yeah, yeah, he is fine with creating a drug that is 100% addictive and changes your DNA, and he's fine with it getting out into the world as long as he makes a bunch of money.
And yeah, like it I to end the dramatic tension with will he save his best friend? It's like they're not really best friends. And this is where he spouts out like, "Why are you even here after all this?" And you're like, he's just asking that now.
Yeah, and then the guy shoots Charlie again in the arm, and he falls to his death. And
His real death this time.
yeah, his real death this time. The Turkish mob or military, whoever they were, these guys in fatigues in the helicopter, they all get arrested. And this is when Steve spots the same people who invited him to Bulgaria, but they are wearing Bulgarian military uniforms. So he realizes he's been tricked.
He's been tricked.
And he talks to the colonel, and he reveals he understands now that she was the one who brought him to Bulgaria in the first place because she wanted him to flush out Charlie because she knew that Charlie wasn't really dead. So complicated.
So complicated. And I'm sure, like, he barely fleshed him out.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure what he did to other than finding out that it wasn't him in the casket, which I don't even know why he knew to look there.
No,
after all that.
I feel like there's so many other ways that they could have made this work and not made it so like, oh, she was tricking you this whole time. She was really on your side, even though she kept telling you to leave. And if you had listened to her, none of this would ever have happened. And the guy would have gotten away with it. So it's good that you disobeyed the rules of a military official in a country that you don't live in.
She knew that your Western sensibilities wouldn't let you walk away from this.
Yeah, she knew that you would knock out that that food delivery guy and take his clothes.
So he basically gets a longing look at Alexa, who betrayed him to some degree.
Well, yeah, he tells her, he's like, I know that you were the third person on the boat and that you've been playing me from the start and you just wanted to use me as your meal ticket to get out of here. And then he leaves and he's like, I guess basically enjoy your time in jail. I don't know if she's still going to go to jail or not.
I don't know either. But then like he goes through this puff of smoke into this car. I'm like
this steaming pipe that's just billowing smoke.
And I thought like that's a stupid shot to end this on, but at least it's a shot. And then we just see him in the back seat for like 10 awkward seconds, and then we faded the credits.
Yeah.
With like all of a sudden like this girl he liked that he met, who was his best friend's girlfriend, has betrayed him that he just met. And his best friend is dead, but he never really knew his best friend. And the entirety of Bulgaria has been using him. What did he learn out of this? to have more follow through, like his sensei said? I don't know what the like whatever, like if this movie was supposed to teach him anything, I don't think it taught him a damn thing.
No, I don't think he really, I don't think he learned a lesson.
So I have a question for you to end this episode.
Okay.
Because this movie has fighting and mystery and twists and turns and science, how would you make this rewrite it slightly to make it into a Darkman sequel?
Oh, okay. I think that probably he would.
I think Steve has to be Darkman to start off with.
So Steve is Darkman, and he finds out that his friend that they recanonize some stuff, that this is the guy that he was also working on skin technology with.
Maybe like his original stuff before his professional stuff, like his amateur skin stuff in college.
But they were working, and they had maybe they had a bit of a falling out. That's what it is. They had a bit of a falling out, and he finds out that he's working on some new skin technology stuff to help people with skin grafts and things like that. But he's in Bulgaria, so yes. Darkman has to go to Bulgaria.
Disguised as a reporter.
Disguised as a reporter. He has to go over there. And it turns out that the guy wasn't actually working on anything. He wanted to get Darkman there because Darkman has the best skin technology. Also, he wanted to get very strong by taking some of his blood and making a 100% addictive drug.
Because instead of...
Called Red Mist.
Yes, because Dark Mist.
Instead... Ooh, yes.
instead of something bonding to your skin and creating new skin for you, it bonds to your DNA.
Yes.
And you're addicted to it.
Absolutely.
But it slowly deforms your body.
Yes.
And that's when you sell them the fake skin you also made. I like this. He could infiltrate, because the Russian mafia is still there. The Bulgarian military, the Interpol, they're all there. But now he can, instead of just trying to steal like an outfit from a delivery boy, he can now infiltrate them with his fake skin as Darkman.
Yes.
He can be anybody.
I like that. Yeah. No, and then you could have Gary Daniels play Darkman. That's just his new face that he's wearing.
And then it turns out the person he ultimately wants to sell the drug to, who he's double crossed both Darkman, the hospital, the Russian mafia, but he's found a higher bidder. Someone who will pay anything to get this drug. That man, he's still alive. It's Durant.
Yeah, exactly. Get Larry Drake in here. I would love that. Let's bring Darkman back and let's have Gary Daniels play him.
Darkman's had an accent before.
That's true. But yeah, I think that's gonna probably do it for this episode of Predictocast. I will say the City of Fear was more fun than I was expecting. I expected it to be a bit of a slog. It dips a little, but for the most part, it's pretty fun. There's some fun fight sequences. Not enough, I think, overall, but I think it's still pretty fun. There's some really goofy shit. Charlie is ridiculous.
Charlie's ridiculous. The employee of the month thing is so fucking funny.
The employee of the month thing is fantastic. That car chase is confusing but very funny. It's if you have a high tolerance for mediocre 2000s action movies, like, I don't think this is the worst way to spend 90 minutes. Like, I was never bored. Like, it's pretty good. Even when it kind of dips a little bit, it's still engaging enough because there's enough stuff to be surprised at it whenever something happens. So hey, if you like this kind of thing, it's not the worst way to spend your afternoon.
No, I mean, all you have to do is, when you have one of these movies and you're sitting there like, wow, the plot doesn't make any sense, you have to understand the internal logic of one of these movies of the big, strong, karate white guy has a gravity that no matter if you think, why would anyone care? Why would this character be solving these problems? Why are people using this character? Why is everyone involving this person who, in fact, no one needs? And he would, in theory, walk away from this sensibly at any time. It's because that character in these movies has a incredible gravity that no one can escape. And when you realize that, the whole plot makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's going to do it. We'll be back next week with a mini episode revealing our next, I'll just say, hopefully action-packed film. We're keeping things action-packed in September. But until then, I've been Josh.
And I've been Skinner.
And we predict you'll join us. If you like the show, subscribe, rate, and review us over at Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitter and Instagram at predictocast, and you can find our entire back catalog at predictocast.com. Our theme music is by Kyle Sledge. Find more of his work at soundcloud.com/geistmusic. As always, thanks for listening. I hope that I can record the next episode. I have just started taking Blue Mist, and I'm afraid of what it might do to me.
Pretty good, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Totally addictive.
100%.
I feel my DNA changing.
Back to the middle and around again. 100% pure addictive.